Hello and welcome everybody back to Dude Pole Sports Media, where we're going to go through episode 2 of our 6-part series on unpacking and getting you ready as a fan for the 2026 football season. Now, last time we did the SEC version of the video, and today we're going to be unpacking the Big Ten. Afterwards, I laid out the whole roadmap in the last video. If you need to watch that, I would, because it goes over a lot of the key stuff that we mentioned in this video. Now, the Big Ten has 18 teams, but 5 tiers as well. I think the Big Ten is a big key to the overall storylines of the entire football season this year, because you have a lot of, teams that, will they, won't they? A lot of, some of the biggest national championship threats, and then some of the teams that I think could crash and burn really easily. However, this conference will take a while to unpack, so I would strap in, get some popcorn, and get ready for the YouTube video. Now, like I said, there were 5 tiers. Tier 5, the very bottom tier, is called Accident Inbound, because I think with how competitive the top of the Big Ten is, the bottom, 3 or 4 teams are not going to enjoy their seasons. Chief among them, number 18, the worst team in the Big Ten. I think the whole power conference is we have the Purdue Boilermakers. Not a whole lot is going for them. I mean, when you look at the overall program stability, there is none. They've gone 2-10, 1-11 the past few years. They haven't been consistently winning any games whatsoever for the past 10. I just don't think that Barry Odom has a lot in the building that can help facilitate sad to say, a bowl season, because that would be impressive to them. I think Purdue needs a huge culture reset if they want to end up anything like their in-state rivals in Indiana. I'm not confident in them whatsoever. I have their projected record at 1-11. Yes, 1 FBS win through the entire season. Not good if you're trying to rebuild a program. And I have their ceiling at 3-9. I think their floor is that 1-11, but I don't see a whole lot of success for Purdue this year. I think with the way that the schedule is always shaped for the bottom teams like Northwestern and Rutgers, Maryland and Purdue, I think that they always have really annoyingly hard schedules, because let's all get it out of the way, because they want the bigger teams to have bye weeks in practicum. So who really is going to stop them from doing that? I just think that, Purdue needs a lot of help. They did get this transfer. Assad Wassim, is that correct? Yes, from FAU as a wide receiver. He looked really good for the Owls last year in the run and hoot offense. Let's see if he can do something, help quarterback. I don't even know who the quarterback is, to try and actually have a good, offense or something. Just give the program momentum. That's all you can ask for if you're the head coach, Barry Odom there. You just need momentum. You need the program to go in the right direction. And I think that it probably won't, and probably will have him canned by the end of the season, unfortunately. The number 17 team in the Big Ten is a team that, has been actually performing fairly well as of recently. I just think that there's going to be a gap year in the success based off of the schedule and off of the roster. Northwestern. I have them going 3-9. They play some really annoying games, and I don't trust the Northwestern team to, be able to go and pick a few of them off. One good thing in the offseason for Northwestern is they did grab Aiden Shiles from Michigan State. I think that he's actually a fairly decent quarterback when you give him the full reins to completely go and do whatever he wants. So I think Northwestern grabbing him, adding to the roster, is a huge advantage for them. I think that's kind of why they get 3-9. I honestly expect a 4-8 more, but just the way the schedule, with some lower records in the conference. Anyway, I think that Northwestern's overall success and identity is with their head coach, David Braun. I'm actually kind of impressed with how well of a job he's doing there. It's just that when you're going to Northwestern and you're not necessarily setting the world on fire like Sig, there's going to be a few down years every once in a while. I think this is just one of them. I have their floor at 1-11. They play South Dakota State, and I think that, honestly, that could be a loss. That's where the 1-11 comes from. They play some, Ball State or somebody, some easier win. But the ceiling's at 5-7. the season isn't necessarily a complete write-off. It's just how compact the Big Ten is. I think that the top of the conference is just going to take advantage, just like the SEC of these bottom three teams. Number 16 in the conference, I have a team that I think some people are overvaluing a little bit. I think it's Mike Loxley's Maryland Terrapins. Sure, Malik Washington's coming back. He's going to be a good quarterback. We all understand this. But in the modern Big Ten, you cannot just have a good quarterback. You need to build a roster around the quarterback to go and do some crazy things if you want to make a splash in the conference. I'm not going to completely shove it in their faces, but it's really odd to me. A bunch of the lower teams have a really hard schedule. I mean, this year they did a good job of getting some of the, better teams some hard schedules, but it feels like every season the Purdue's and the Marylands of the world just always have to, struggle through an impossible schedule. I think that doesn't help them a lot. I have them going 5-7 just because of quarterback play. I think they do pull some games off. It's an easier schedule compared to like Northwestern. So, when overall, you look at the challenges, and then you look at the roster, I'm not confident whatsoever in Maryland. Floor 3-9, ceiling is 6-6, but it's not a whole lot I gotta say. It's a bunch of repetition from the other two teams in this tier. Tier 4, however, are teams that I think, if given the correct season and everything breaks their way, can do some pretty good things. I think that there is a chance for some of them go 8-4, but I also think that they're just along for the ride, name of the tier, and they can go 3-9. It's just how difficult is the conference to win in, and how prepared are they and their second strings and their third strings when they're playing rough-nosed Big Ten football. I think the lowest of the bunch is number 15 with Michigan State. Before we get into the whole debrief thing, Pat Fitzgerald comes in as their head coach, coming from Northwestern. He did pretty good in the last era of football, but ever since he did kind of retire, things have gotten really hard to win, so I don't know. But the one thing I do want to note is he needs to stop running his mouth. All due respect to Pat Fitz, I really looked up to him at Northwestern, and I'm going to here at Michigan State, because I think he's a good coach, he's a good guy, and I understand, he's really successful. It's just when I look at him and I hear him say, "Oh, the expectation around here is to go win a Big Ten championship game, period." Or, "I think we're going to beat Michigan. They're not that good anyway." I think that's a little immature from a program to go immediately from 3-9 after, Mel Tucker era. They did some great things, but the coach didn't do some great things. Let's just say that. I don't think there's an immediate turnaround. The program's good. It has the resources. It's one of the most underutilized places in the country. It's just, I don't expect a lot out of Michigan State in year one. Rightfully so, Their schedule is something I've been dogging on for the other teams, but this schedule does have something quite interesting. They play a bunch of games where it's Washington and Iowa and Michigan and UCLA, where these are chances where a team like Michigan State has the opportunity, if the quarterback room from Alessio Milovic, if you have quarterback play from Alessio that's good, if they have some of the transfers where it wasn't half bad transfer, intake this year, I think they can go sneak one away from an Iowa, say if their offense is running well, or Washington if the Devon Williams news is really getting to them and they start falling off. I'm kind of, intrigued to see how well they do. Me personally, I have them going 4-8, which is kind of a counterintuitive point, but I just don't know how confident I could be in Michigan State off rip. Ceiling is 6-6, floor 2-10. The only real differentiator is, I think, the monetary resources that can be extracted in year one for Michigan State. I think they can be better put to use than a Maryland or a Northwestern or a Purdue. By the way, shout out to Northwestern, I didn't mention that earlier. Cool new stadium, actually. Kind of impressed with how well they did. The number 14 team in the conference, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, differs a lot from Michigan State. They renew their head coach. They get him back for another season. I think Greg Schiano as coach, sorry, I did have to look that up. He does great things For Rutgers, it's just, when you look at the schedule, and the schedule doesn't mean everything, but when you have such a defined and delineated Tier 1 and Tier 2 and Tier 3, the schedule you play is huge because it determines the chances you get to actually win the games you need to win and fight for the games you need to fight. The out-of-conference, they play like Cincinnati and Boston College and some of the lesser, power conference teams. But as soon as you go in conference, they play Penn State and they play like Michigan and Ohio State. It's crazy. I honestly look forward to see them play, especially with guys like KJ Duff. Really underrated wide receiver for them. I, took a little bit to research him, but dude, when he is a good player. I think he dropped 1,100 yards last season as a receiver, if that says anything. I don't know, man. Rutgers is one of those teams where you can't really get a read on them really well. So, I'm going to put out 4-8. I may be wrong. I have a ceiling of 7-5 if I am. But a floor of 3-9 just in case. Say that the whole tier thing goes a little wrong and they lose their out-of-conference games. They're kind of just royally screwed over by the whole situation. We'll say Rutgers fans wouldn't be too mad if y'all did go 4-8. There's a lot of positive momentum in the program, especially in the Big Ten. They're actually doing a lot. So I would look forward to, if I was a Big Ten fan, to seeing them develop into a good program over the next few years, because I think they can, actually. Number 13 is a team that is always so consistent in between the 5 and 8 win range, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. By the way, shout out to the Golden Gopher himself for making the Mascot Hall of Fame right next to my University of South Carolina's cocky. Just congrats to both of y'all. I mean, it's a stupid headline, but that's what you live for in the offseason. Back to Minnesota football. PJ Fleck is still there. He was doing good things in the old division system. He was able to get a few nice, conference championship games out of the program. But now, ever since they did remove that, it looks a lot more sloppy for Minnesota. Now that they play a lot more of the more competitive teams, especially with the additions of the far West Coast guys, I think they just got kind of buried under the mud, and I would expect to see them fall off, and they have over the past few years. For a program like Minnesota, I'm a little bullish on them being on the low side just because of how talented the conference has grown around them. I would even prefer like a Rutgers to them. It's just they have some trap games too. Some of the games they should win, quote unquote. Like a Wisconsin team that's really going to be testy, or a Mississippi State team that's trying to prove that they're better than the Big Ten. It's a lot of factors outside of their own control that are prohibiting them from starting to regain the momentum. PJ Fleck's a good guy. It's just ceiling of 6-6 and the floor of 3-9. What can you do if you're in such a stacked Big Ten? I just mentioned them, but I'm gonna actually, dive into them as a team. It's Wisconsin at the 12. Luke Fickell. Dude, does anybody remember who Luke Fickell is? Do you need a reminder? He's the guy that took Cincinnati to a college football playoff. Not in the 12-team format, in the 4-team format. Only guy to ever do that. Only head coach to ever take a G5 team to the freaking college football playoff 4-team system. He goes over to Wisconsin. He makes some bad offensive hires. Has to release them a few years later. Last season, when it was supposed to be a rebound season, won the hardest schedule in the Big Ten by a Texas-sized mile. And now they're saying hot seat right now. I think that it's going to get to them, but not in a bad way. I honestly have them going 7-5. I'm really happy with their transfer portal addition of Colton Joseph from Old Dominion. I think he's going to be a good stud for them, a guy that the program can build around, which is really good for a Wisconsin team that has just lacked an identity as of recent. It's not a good look for a program that was the next, one of the strongest programs in the country for a while, and they just kind of fell off. I don't know. But to recircle back, Wisconsin, it's a very sneaky team. Did you know that out of the top 5 teams in my, preseason power rankings, they avoid 4 out of them? They play like one top 5 team, and it's Penn State, which is a really frisky team, but a lot of transfers coming in, and they play them early in the season. I'm not confident in a Penn State blowout of Wisconsin. I think they can go 8-4 in the season if things really turn out well. But like I said earlier, I'm gonna have them 7-5 with a floor of 4-8 if Luke Fickell doesn't end up being the head coach. By the way, I would grab Luke Fickell as soon as possible, as if I could. Pull a Virginia Tech and be like, yeah, you're coming here now. And who's to judge me? The last team in the tier is a team that I think a lot of people are going to be a little sour on this year because of how much of a reverse they pulled last season. The Illinois Fighting Illini is the 11th team in the country. That's kind of ironic. They were supposed to be one of the best teams in the country. I mean, you saw, like, March and in April, there were people legitimately having them in the final 8 teams in the country, winning and or getting a bye in the playoffs. Yes, the Illinois team that finished 9-3, I think looked sloppy for most of the season. I'm sure the coaching was good, but Luke Altmaier was good too. It's not a whole lot of stuff they bring back. It's not like they can go, oh yeah, let's just run it back. That was last season. This season they lose almost all of their key contributors on the football field. They still do keep Brett Bielema, so that is a good factor towards their success this year. 5-7, just because of the coach. That's what I'm gonna give them. I'm not really looking forward to see Illinois, try to reestablish their ground, because I don't think they can do it. It's one of the few programs where, oh yeah, for sure there'll be high highs, but there can be some low lows, and I think we're getting back into the, whole up and down side of Illinois. Their floor is 4-8. I think there's a way where the floor just completely just falls underneath them, and they end up back in the purgatory they were in for like 5 years in 4-8. But I think they have a ceiling of like 7-5. The program's ability to show what they did show, and it only being 1 year outside of them going 9-3, and 2 years outside of them winning the Citrus Bowl, I'm willing to say they can go 7-5. It's just a matter of, will the other teams at the Big Ten swallow them completely or not? One last thing before we do switch. Caton Hauser, transfer quarterback from East Carolina. Dude, he is a stud. I saw him play, almost beat NC State, and looked like one of the best guys ever on that field. I'm really happy with him. He ended up at Illinois. That's partially why he is taking the team to a 5-7 record. But if he gets time to develop, a year from now, there could be some big blow-up potential here in Illinois. We're now going to go up a tier to the tier 3. It's called the spoilers tier. There are a few teams in the Big Ten where I think they're clearly defined as the number 1, number 2, yada, yada, down as contenders. But after that, there's a bubble of like 4 or 5 teams that really, in the grand scheme of things, in the conference like championship picture, are being kind of ignored. And I don't understand that. These are teams that, have time and time again proved that they're able to throw their weight around in the conference and are just able to completely, swallow the league. And I think it's, immature to completely expect regression out of them. So that's why they're in the spoilers tier. First one to be mentioned are the Nebraska Cornhuskers, famously led by Matt Rule. Did not work out with the Rule year 3 thing. Don't know why. That was really superstitious. Glad I didn't really fall for it. They did lose Kenny Minchie. They did lose Dylan Raiola. That stinks if you're a Nebraska fan. But when you're looking at system fit in the Nebraska offensive system, there are very few players in the country, like UNLV transfer Anthony Calandria, that can fit the job. I have them going 8-4. I think they do about what they did last year. They win all the games they need to win, but if it's like counting on them to go beat Indiana, that won't happen. They just play some insane teams this year. I think they play the three most dominant teams in the conference without a question. And when you're looking at a program to break through the ceiling, that's one of the few steps that you need to have. It's an easier schedule where you're not getting shot at every single week. Just getting blowed and you can't really recover. Nebraska, I mean, they're going to be good. They're everybody's favorite darling when it comes to them rising back up and being at what they should be. But when it comes to actual likelihood of that happening this season, I don't know. There is a chance where they get one of the three big games off and they win all the other games and they go 10-2 and they make the college football playoff. That is not what I'm predicting. I had them 8-4, as I mentioned, but I think there's a chance where the 4 falls out. The teams in the tier below them actually do their job, and they beat Nebraska because they're focusing too much on the top, and they go 5-7. But Matt Rule is still going to be a good coach no matter what. You didn't keep him around just to race him away. I think 8-4 is fair. The number 9 most middling team in the conference is the UCLA Bruins. Now, if you were to tell me that 2 off seasons ago, a team in complete and utter dysfunction like UCLA would now be put in a position where they're the arguably 3rd most underrated team in the country, with playoff caliber players and coaching behind them, wouldn't believe you one bit. But Nico Amaliava, that whole scandal goes down. And last offseason, they hired the great Bobby Chesney from James Madison. Took a bunch of his guys with him, which I'm really happy with. Getting the guys that know the system continuity. It's different from Lane Kiffin, who just kind of said, let's get people in LSU. They went and they grabbed a lot of good players from James Madison to keep the continuity together. I'm happy with that. I really am. It's just, it's the Big Ten. It's so hard to win against the teams at the top. Stat for you. Past 2 seasons, Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, the 3 clear best teams in the conference, have lost a combined 1 game to teams not named Indiana, Ohio State, or Oregon. You want to know what it was? It was Ohio State losing to Michigan in the game a few years back. I'm really quite interested to see if that does happen. The tier separation stops almost, because UCLA plays a lot of them in the tier 1 and the tier 2. They play USC. They also play Penn State and all those guys. So let's just see how Bob Chesney does year 1. I'm kind of happy for him because 8-4 is what I got for them. I think there's a chance they go 9-3. I don't think there's a playoff scenario out for them, unfortunately, but I think there is a floor of 6-6. So you're gonna go bowling. Enjoy that, UCLA fans. It's a rare piece of enjoyment for you. The number 8 team in the country is a team that's always been kind of trippy for me. Past 2 seasons have been kind of weird for Washington as a program. Jed Fish comes in from Arizona. Arizona was rolling. He comes into Washington and he's like, okay, what? For lack of better terminology, he just kind of sat there and went, huh? Because grabbed Ahmad Williams. That is awesome. He is a great player. But then they lost him. But then they got him back. That really confused me. Last offseason, I was in a similar position where it's like a will they, won't they sort of thing. Kind of just waiting out the storm. They ended up 8-4. Right about where the honorable mentions should be. And I couldn't really do anything about it. It's just, they had a bunch of big games, and then they won against the teams they needed to by a landslide. But then they would play a Michigan and get their butt handed to them. It's just, they play 5 better teams. So I think they go 7-5. That's what the roster has been. That's just how the coaching has been for them. But I think the ceilings can go worse. 5-7 is in the picture. Same thing as 9-3 though. If the opinion does shake and Damon Williams actually re-synergizes with the team, because I'm gonna act like they just got a transfer quarterback, but they kept the same guy, just because of how weird that dynamic was. If you don't know, he threatened to transfer to LSU. He was going to, but the Washington Supreme Court or somebody was like, no, we're not going to let you transfer. So he just went back. He's at Washington again. So it's just a weird NIL part of today's football. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how to completely grade this team. Hence why they're a sleeper. How about that? The most consistent team in the country. The best defense in the country. Who do you think of? Immediately what pops in your head is the number 7 team in my rankings, the Iowa Hawkeyes. They're the first team out of my, top two tiers. Because as good as they may be at defense, goodness gracious, they need to learn how to throw the football. They have not had a consistently good quarterback for more than 3 games. Unironically, I think Cooper DeJean and those guys were doing much better than the entire offense. It's just been a lot of messy stuff for the Iowa offense. Their continuity, I will always say, is not going to be there. But there are some people that think they will be. There are some truthers that think there is a chance this season. They're so good. And I think what Iowa is really good at, as an objective fan of the sport, is measuring how good the Big Ten is at. If they have went 9-3, they have done a great job this season. I think their ceiling is 10-2. They play 3 really good teams. I think they might be able to block off one of them. If they go 10-2 though, that means that the conference is at a down point outside of the top teams maybe. But if they end up 6-6, I think that means the conference is surging and doing a great job. Kirk Ferentz has got the team rolling, has been for the past 20 years. Wouldn't expect that to stop anytime soon. For the Tier 2 teams in the Big Ten, I call them the playoff party crashers because these are 3 teams that I think, not a whole lot of people have them on their off-season radar. But if the certain things fall their way, they can easily make the college football playoff. I think the first example among them is Michigan. Kyle Whittingham comes in from Utah as head coach. He was doing great over there. He had all of the resources he really could have there, and he was going 10, 11 wins. Even in the Mountain West, he was there for the Mountain West. Remember that? Crazy times. Now they're arguably supposed to be in the Big Ten. Kyle Whittingham has done a great job at being able to, re-identify the culture to being something that's more, success-friendly at Michigan. I think what it really comes down to is how good is Bryce Underwood. Because I personally think Bryce Underwood is going to be a good quarterback for Michigan this season. I'm happy with his production as of last season. And quite honestly, his best comparison is Arch Manning. Because when Arch Manning first came on the job last season, he had so much pressure to be good. Same thing with Bryce. And then they failed. It was kind of bad. The Ohio State game for Texas and the Michigan had the Oklahoma game. They just kind of fell apart. But as the season went on, expectations were lower. They started to improve. Arch Manning and, I think, Bryce Underwood are both going to surge at the beginning of the season. I think it's the confidence they've been building since last off season. So, what does that mean if you're a Michigan fan? I think you go 7-5, but it's not your fault. You have 2 key swing games against Penn State and Iowa at weird times in the schedule. They play all of Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana. So, this is going to be a weird season for Michigan because they brought in a new head coach, but he's one of the best new head coaches they could have brought in. I'm going to shout out a guy that hasn't really been shouted out a whole lot this offseason. Andrew Marsh comes in as a wide receiver from, I think, Nebraska. He was doing really good numbers over there. Nobody saw him because he was at Nebraska. Now that he's at a big name, big body program. No offense to Nebraska. You're still a big program. Just not a big body program anymore. He's going to do great numbers at Michigan. I'm sure of it. He's one of those guys that will pop off, and I'm ready for it. Michigan, I think their ceiling is 10-2. I think they do have a chance of making the playoffs this year, but they have a floor of 6-6, just because of how inconsistent I think the whole quarterback reliance thing could be, especially for a now sophomore guy, true sophomore. It's going to be a fun season if you're watching from the outside, but it's going to be a terrible season if you're a Michigan fan. So buckle in. The number 5 team in the Big Ten is a team that kind of just got the golden opportunity given to them. Penn State, last season, halfway through the year, was 2-3. James Franklin was fired. They had lost to Northwestern and UCLA. But now, imagine, almost a year later, beginning the start of the season, I have them going 11-1 with the opportunity to go undefeated. Wow. Does that mean they had the greatest roster in America? No. They had the greatest schedule in America. They play not a whole lot of people. They play 4 real games, in my opinion. At Washington early in the year when they, could still be struggling because, by the way, Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell comes in, brings all, and I mean all of his guys over there, including quarterback Rocco Becht. I think they can have some time working with the other guys. I still think they win that game, though. And then they have 3 more games. 3 more games. And they need to win one of them and they make the playoffs. I'm not joking. Washington, USC, Michigan. I think they can do it. I have them going 11-1. I think this is a great, great season. Incoming for Penn State, especially after what you experienced last year, this is the sort of stuff you would love to see as a Penn State fan. I think their floor is 9-3. I think there is a chance where they lose all 3 of their big games, but there's not much bad after that. I mean, Wisconsin, like I mentioned, and then maybe Rutgers could go bad, or Minnesota. I don't know. It's a very, very easy schedule for Penn State, so it's not going to be a big deal for them. We're going back, but we are going to look good. Playoffs may be rough, though, without all the tests that you should have had for Penn State. So, buckle in for a fun season for the Nittany Lions. The number 4 team in the country is the USC Trojans, and when I say Lincoln Riley is being disrespected like no other, I mean it. He did not hire the right guys on offense and defense. We can admit that. I think he has now. The defense has become one of the best in the country for some reason. Just the offense now. Under year 3, Jane Mayava, can they commit and explode onto the scene? I think they do. 9-3 is my prediction for the USC Trojans. A lot of key games. They play Washington, UCLA, Penn State. They play Ohio State. They play Indiana, I'm fairly certain. I think they do play Oregon as well. A bunch of big games like that. But most of them are actually at their place. Penn State's at their place. UCLA is at their place. Oregon's at their place. This is the chance. Lincoln Riley, put up or shut up. That's all I gotta say. You've not been doing great. This is your chance at greatness. I think because of that pressure, there's a chance they go 10-2. But things get derailed early. Something bad happens where they lose like a weird game to Rutgers or something. I think there's a chance they go 7-5. Get back to what they've been doing. It's not what I expect. The roster looks great. I mean, the center did get hurt, but that old line looks great. They have the depth in the places where they need the depth the most to go and attack the entire country. I think this is their chance of the season. I'm happy. I haven't revealed the dude poll yet, but they're definitely up there. I am confident in this USC team. All of the funny business aside, there are 3 teams in the Big Ten that run the show, not just for the conference, but for the entire country. These are 3 teams I think are the national championship favorites. One of them is the defending, and 2 of them are really, really strong roster-wise. Let's get into it. The Tier 1 and best teams in the Big Ten. Starting with the Indiana Hoosiers, which is shocking to say. They are the defending national champions. Why on earth would they be at the very bottom of the top tier? Let me tell you. They had a lot, they did lose a lot, and they gained a lot in the portal. It's just so hard to go up against some of the crazy rosters of Ohio State and Oregon. Josh Hoover is a guy, I think, ignoring the interception problem, which I think everyone loves to talk about too much. He is a guy that puts up video game Michael Vick-esque numbers. And if you're trying to become a guy that's just able to, have his reputation on football as being the best of the best, go and fix that if you're Curt Cignetti. Because Josh Hoover has all of the potential in the world to be a great quarterback in the NFL, too. It's just, how does he not throw 13 interceptions but 20 touchdowns? Such an interesting dilemma with that guy. I will be watching him the whole season. It's going to be fun. Is Indiana that big of a contender? Yes, they are. I have them going 11-1 with a floor of 8-4. 2 seasons ago, I had them as the worst team in the Big Ten. Of course, I was proven wrong, but just to show you how good of a program that Curt Cignetti is running, I think Indiana goes back to basics. There's a chance they go undefeated. I said 11-1, but it's going to look great no matter what the record is. Moment of truth. Who's the number 2? Who's the number 1 team in the Big Ten? Well, what it came down to is, I think Ohio State's going to take a minute before they go back to where they were, especially when you're comparing the roster to the number 1 team. I mean, you have some names that are household and will have great seasons. Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin, a quarterback. It's a bunch of guys that you already know. And they're just gonna not mess around, and they're just gonna bully everybody into the wall. It's what everyone normally thinks. Until you find out they have the hardest schedule in the Big Ten. They play Oregon, Texas, Michigan, USC, Indiana. They play I think they play Wisconsin, a bunch of those guys too. I mean, they did not ask any questions on whether or not Ohio State needed a tough schedule. They just gave it to them. They're like, you're just going to figure out how to win with this. I think Ryan Day can do it. That's not the question. Is how many losses does he have when he does do it? I have him with 2 in this model, but I think there's a chance they do go undefeated. With how tough the schedule is, however, 7-5, 8-4, those are both in the picture, which is shocking to say for Ohio State. I don't think that'll happen for 1 minute, but you have to leave the door open for the schedule to completely blow up the whole season. I expect greatness. They were number 1 in the coaches poll. For a good reason. They just look so good. It's just not as good compared to the number 1 team. I think it's Oregon, who I think has the best defense in all of college football. I mean, their D-line looks astounding. Their secondary, it just looks so good. If I start listing names, people will be like, oh, you didn't say this guy. Oh, you're so right. Their floor is 9-3. It's crazy for a program to have a floor of 9-3. But their projected record and ceiling for me is undefeated. With the way the schedule lines up, it works so perfectly for them, along with having an insane roster. I think Dan Lanning can live up to the hype for once. Get rid of the big game demons and just go completely irate on the conference. Let his anger out, almost. It's just going to be a phenomenal season. De'Corian Moore and Dante Moore, dude, that is going to be such a deadly offense. They should have at least 1,200 yards, period, or something bad wouldn't happen. It's just, I'm so happy with looking at Oregon's roster. There are great things to come. It's just, do they come right now or next year? Because it's one of the two. To recap, Tier 1, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana. Tier 2, USC, Penn State, Michigan. Tier 3, Iowa, Washington, UCLA, Nebraska. Tier 4, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Rutgers, Michigan State. In Tier 5, unfortunately, we have Maryland, you have Northwestern, and you have the poor old Purdue Boilermakers. Now, that is my Big Ten recap. If you want to watch more stuff of mine, hopefully you do, by the way, if you make it back here. If you want to watch more, check out my SEC version of this. But if you want to ask even more, I wait for the next 4 parts of the series where I go over next time the ACC. But I'll get through all of the stuff you'll need to know about how the season will unfold. But until I see you next time, football fans out there, stay safe, happy, and healthy, y'all. God bless.